And yeah, there we go. We've started the recording. And Mike, I'll hand it over to you. You're sharing your screen, and we'll go from there.
All right. So I understand that Joe at least got through the initial part of this, and that you were starting in on the filters for doing some of the analytics and the analysis of the data as it comes in. So I'll just pick up from there. I'll drill through these filters. I'll go at more of a high level and not so much at a technical level. If you want me to drill into anything in a little more detail, please just let me know. I'm happy to be interrupted, or you can wait. So at this point, on the left-hand side, we've got our filters. On the right-hand side, we've got our charts. And then we have our action buttons here on top of the charts. So at this point, we have the ability to look either between analysis or review, or both of them at the same time. So as you push documents through from one section to the next, it doesn't necessarily mean that you no longer can access them in another part of the system. Everything on the back end is in the same database, so it's all accessible throughout the system. So it's just simply a flag that changes within one of the fields. So that's about as technical as I'll get for you today. From the inclusion, these statuses are related directly to what you see up here, and they're all in the analysis stage. Those statuses can also pass through to the review as well. So at the moment, people typically look at their retained and their unassigned. You can look in and see what has been suppressed or discarded. Generally, that's just to make sure that what has been suppressed and discarded is actually supposed to be. So that's just another QA check. The location field here, this allows you to actually go in, and as the data was loaded into the system, the location was captured. So the physical location of where the data resided. So you'll see here that you'll see a number of PSTs. For instance, Dana Davis here. You'll see there's a folder, then a PST, and then under that PST, you can start seeing that there's more and more folders. So if you know that you're looking for something and you want to look through somebody's deleted items, for instance, within their inbox, you can add this as a location and then click apply, and you'll be able to actually pull up the 147 documents that are in that person's deleted items that were in their inbox, and be able to actually see them here and pull your different types of charts based off of that level of filtering. So just a little way of drilling into the documents and finding where you're looking for specifically. So you also have the ability to tag documents. So if you know that at this point you want to tag these documents, you can click the tag button, you can create a new one, or you can add it to an existing tag that's already here. When you do that, these tags also transfer from analysis to review. So for instance, I have a tag here that I created a good while ago for M. Schumann test. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and you'll be able to see that these documents will suddenly appear in the review side under that tag. So let's get this applied. So now they're applied, and we can go ahead and take a look and see what's going on. Document kind, this allows you to take a look at specific types of documents to make sure that what you actually have here is what you're looking for. A lot of times people like to take a look at their emails specifically. Obviously, it's 100% of your document set. But from this side, you can actually go over to the communication chart and visually see the communication that's occurring between the various people who have been identified as part of the data loading process. So this communication chart just allows you to see what these people are talking to, various different locations. If you click on it, you'll actually be able to get a listing of it at the bottom here. And then you can do a quick text view review within the analysis side to see what the text looks like, get the properties of the documents, and also take a look and see which of these documents are related. We have a similar document section here that does some scoring as well. It's based off of the semantic indexing and a couple of other things that we leverage on the backside of the data as it comes in. But this just allows you to see, you know, it's a scored 0 to 100. So at this point, these are fairly, they think it's fairly close, it's 75%. So let me continue on with the filters here. I'll remove my email filter just so that we don't get too deep and can't see anything anymore. You have the ability here as well to filter by dates. So, you know, you're looking at a certain date range, for instance, Enron, I think they were specifically around the year 2000. So any emails that are outside of those date ranges are not necessarily needed, they're outliers. So you have the ability to filter on that date as well. Just really drill in, take a look at your data, find out if you have what you want. The aliases here, this is a really cool section. You have the ability to take all of the people and organizations that are within the case themselves, and I'll show you this on the admin side, and create aliases for them. So for instance, Albert Myers may have 16 different email addresses. It may have Bert or Al or Allie or Bertie or, you know, whatever the various forms of their email address may be, or names as they're displayed in the case. And what we do is you have the ability to take those and apply them to a single alias. So as you're searching through the data itself, you're able to just click on an alias and it automatically is going to look for all 16 of those email addresses without you having to know that as the researcher or the reviewer. So for instance, at this point, we have one that's specifically for people of interest, and I'll show you this one when we get into the admin section. And you'll see here, this is still a communication chart, and this is the communication between all of the people of interest in the case that we've identified through that alias. So there's some other options as well within this alias search. This has just recently been introduced so that you can choose just between any of the selected aliases only to the alias itself. So a couple different ways of actually seeing the communication. We also have some people using this for identifying privilege. So if there's emails specifically within a law organization or lawyers themselves, you'd be able to identify those and mark those as privilege and remove them from the review pools. So that feature has a lot of robust ability to go ahead and actually dig into the data itself. Your keywords, we have some abilities here to either do straight keyword searches, you know, oil and gas may turn up something in this filter, it may not. Yeah, it doesn't. We've dug a little bit too deep, but let's see if we've got anything with oil in it. No. All right, we dug a little too deep on that one, but let me just reset the filters so that we can get back to all of the documents. And then we have a report that you can run against this, which oil and gas and ice cream. Everybody loves ice cream. Wow. And at this point, we don't have anybody who's liking ice cream or oil and gas. This is fun. Let's do this again. There we go. Somebody likes gas, finally. So you have the ability to check your keyword responsiveness. So you have a group of investigators that are looking for certain keywords, and this report will actually be able to show them how responsive their keywords are and whether they actually need to go ahead and tweak them a little bit, like I just did, to show and see what exactly is in here. You can then take this and copy it out and send it on to your investigators or, you know, your researchers, just as a baseline of, hey, this is what your key terms are looking at. Are you sure you want this? You also have the ability to take this here and copy it if you find all the terms that you're looking for. I'm not going to do it because it won't actually pull anything up. But the keywords, if you formulated them in a way that you're comfortable and you actually want to reduce your working set, you can paste that into the keywords, find those documents, tag them, and then promote them into the review section. So there's a lot of good functionality behind this. This is really more for the responsiveness side of things. You don't actually, in this page, get a set of documents to review. That's all done from the analysis side here. So keywords, you also have the ability to add some variations. So if we look for ice, we have a whole bunch of variances based off of typos, based off of slang that are used for that ability, and you can add those selections to the keyword search automatically. So it helps you build out your searches. Custodian, this is another great place. So aliases are where we combine custodians and make custom aliases. Custodians are actually when the data was loaded in themselves, the custodians are identified at the time of loading. And you'll see here, for instance, we've got a bunch of custodians. There should be approximately 130 in the full corpus here. And I'm able to filter by custodian. So my custodian is Dan here. And you'll see that there's about 3,000 documents. And here's the breakout of those documents. So again, just the ability to drill really into your custodians. We have a machine learning utility that we have included in this build that actually allows you to scan all of the documents and identify the primary language that is on those documents. So that just helps you if you need a translator or need to understand, you know, what type of documents you're looking at. You'll be able to just quickly take a glance at that and be able to tag the documents that are foreign languages and move those off into another review pool so that your native speaking of the case don't have to look at a foreign language and get bogged down in that. Mm-hmm. Data sets, this is how the data is brought in. So each of the, let's call them load batches, would be brought in. They each get a unique name. You'll be able to define here as a filter what's within each of those data sets. So hot docs were brought in a data set all of their own. You'd be able to limit just by that and review and analyze just those documents. The rest of these down here are really from a standpoint of administration. So size, you can choose the size of the documents that you're looking for. Okay. QA, these are statuses that are set as the documents come into the system. They either receive a QA status of in QA or not in QA. You have the ability to move documents into QA as well and move them out again. So that's just an administrative side. Same thing with the OCR. These are just administrative things that you can look. You can take a look and see all of the documents that were added to the OCR queue at the time that they were brought in. And you'll see that what's left in analysis right now is only 2 documents. Yeah. So if I pick the review, you should see that the remaining documents, oh, it looks like we have some duplicates in here as well. And we must be looking at one single custodian. Where is he? This is where you can get in some serious trouble, is by not removing all your filters. So as you can see, there's some strong analytics behind this that allow you to just drill into your data itself and look at it.
Very fine tuning, let's say.
So in addition to this, we have the ability to import MD5 lists. If you have a set of documents that somebody has already identified in another system and they're looking for those specific MD5 hashes, you have the ability on the back end to load those in and they'd be available in a hash list, or you can search for an individual MD5 itself and that will pull that document up here, or documents if there are duplicates, and that'll allow you to go ahead and see them here. So at this point, you've done your analysis, you've gone ahead and clicked retain. That just means that you want to take these documents and move them from analyst to review. This is a cumulative feature, so you don't have to do it every time you click retain. You don't have to go, okay, I need to promote to review. So as you're continuing to do your investigation and analyze, you can just continue to add to your retained bucket.
Okay.
It looks like I added all of them. I will remove that after the demo. At this point, you can then push these documents through to review. And you have some options around how to do that. You can define a document set that these documents are moved into. So from analyst on 2019, 0206, you have the ability to give them a unique name on the way in. This is just a review name. It can also turn in to the Bates name if you want it to, or it can just be a unique name for the review itself. So for instance, let's see if I can continue one of these. This is a good way of showing that we have the ability to use an existing previously defined naming convention and then just continue it. You don't have to remember where you left off in the numbering.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the ability to sort how they come in to the review. So, you know, based off of date, based off of file name, based off of title, that's how they'll get numbered as they move into the review side. At this point, if I clicked OK, it would go ahead and push all of those 237,000 documents into the review side. I won't do that because we could be here all day waiting for that, because this server is very small and my internet connection is not quite good enough to keep up with it. So I'll move those back out, and then we'll just go into the review side here to show you what it looks like once you've pushed them through. So this is the review. You'll see here, I'll just uncheck this real quickly so you can see that you have the ability to look not just at review, but you have the ability to look in the analysis side as well and review those documents. So you don't have to push them through necessarily. It's just part of the workflow that helps you understand where you are in your review process. So you'll see here that there's 272,000 documents in analysis, and I'll add the ones from review, and you should get about 333,000 total in this corpus. Yep, there we go. So at this point, we have moved documents through. I mentioned previously that I had a tag that we had created that passes from one side to the next. I haven't actually moved my documents into analysis, or from analysis into review. So at this point, here in the review stage is the tag with my documents in it. So that is just a nice feature that allows you to just flow through the system and work through it at your own pace and at your own workflow. So you don't have to actually go on to both sides. So from here, you have the ability to do advanced searches based off of any number of fields that are available. We also have the ability to search all full text fields. So everything that was pulled in as a full text and indexed accordingly, you have the ability to search that all in one. So I would hope somewhere in here would be the word oil within the full text fields. So there you go. We have full text fields of oil. Now at this point, you can literally just start reviewing these documents by clicking review, and it will take you through all of the documents and allow you to go in and view them, do some markups. So this is a text view. You have the ability to view it in near native. And when you've searched for a document, or searched for a term, excuse me, within a document, in the near native view, they're going to be available for highlighting and hyperlinking within the document. So you'll be able to just quickly browse through and take a look where it is and review it in the near native. If there's been a PDF that's been either generated or imported for those documents, they'll be available in the PDF tab. You also have the ability to do PDFs on the fly if you add that permission set to the users and allow that throughout the case. Same thing for TIFFs. This will use the generated TIFFs if they were generated as part of a production or if they were imported in. Otherwise, you have the ability to create TIFFs on the fly. And then the markup tab itself, this is where you have the ability to actually go in and make redactions and annotations. So you'll see that I've made a few of these, but in this case, so you have this area here, you may not want to have the financials visible. So that basically allows you to go in at this point and make your changes to the document. You also have the ability to annotate it. Some of my favorite stamps are here. This is fun for me. At this point, you go ahead and click save, and the markups are saved. And then you're able to go through and move through the documents. So that's the review section. That's all fully customizable from the tabs. You're able to remove tabs, define the first tab that users will browse into, make sure that they're always in the tab as they move from one document to the next. On the right side here, this is your coding panel. There are multiple different panels, and these are all fully customizable. This is from the administrative side. So, for instance, this is the relevance and issue coding. If you have expert witnesses in and you want them to make comments and about location or who did it, you have the ability to go ahead and make those modifications and allow that to be locked down just to those expert witnesses based off of permission sets. So again, this is all fully customizable here. The productions tab, this is going to be where you can actually review your production exports and see how the document looked when it was disclosed in that package. So if there was a disclosure here available for this document, you'd be able to pull it down and view it in this tab. So let me go back to the review itself. So you want this search itself, you want to save this search for later. You have the ability to do so by clicking the plus and then adding a name and clicking OK. So at this point, it would now be available here as the MS test. So people have done a number of different searches here, and you'll be able to pull it down. You'll see phone, PH, cell, or mobile. So these are all saved searches. Obviously, the more complex the search, the less you want to type it out over and over again. So the saved search really saves you some time. You'll see here that some of them are named pool. That relates to the review pools up here. So for this one, the privilege and relevant. Where did it go? Privilege and relevant. All right, so this search is for relevant equals yes and privilege equals yes. So if you wanted to create a review pool based off of that search, you would click the plus sign, and then you would base it off of the current search. And this would allow you to create what we call a batching review, so that you can have reviewers assigned to a pool of documents to be able to pull them out and focus solely on that. So from the perspective of, first pass, relevance and coding, investigatory, beyond the relevance, all of those have the ability to have different pools. And this is the format that you would be able to create them in. And then you'd have the ability to go ahead and look in to see what the pool is identified as. So the author is Ken, the document type is Outlook message. That rolls over into this batching area, and I'll show you that in a moment. One of the nice things about EDT is that we have the ability to segregate documents out in folders. So a document can only be in one folder. It can be in multiple document sets. So if you want to limit who can see the documents, for instance, expert exhibits or the exhibits that you want to share with the other side prior to disclosure, there's a number of different cases that this is used. We have the ability to put those off into a folder, define the permissions, and then once they log into the system, those will be the only documents that they have access to view. So that allows you to really granularize what people are seeing. Document sets are a great way of actually going through and organizing. You'll see here, there's witness briefs, there's working sets, there's employment case. So this is just a great way of organizing and grouping the documents together through the review process. Within the location, this is the same, excuse me, that's a save search. The location, this is the same type of location that you had in the analyst side of things. You'd be able to actually drill down and look into this person's deleted items. Well, not with that search. All right, try this again. Somebody, anybody, there we go. So at this point, you have the ability to look in and actually start reviewing these. Again, drill right in and start working through it. So if you know that you're looking for somebody's particular documents that were stored in a particular location, this is a great way to get down into that and really look through it. I showed you tags already. So these buttons here at the top are action buttons again. So you have the ability to apply a tag to these documents. Again, this is existing tags, and you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to apply it to all the results, their families, in the email threads as well. If you accidentally applied a tag, you have the ability to remove it. So it's a nice little place to go. You have the ability to just move these to a folder. So again, you've identified these as exhibits, and you want them to be off into a folder for review just by the expert witnesses or whomever. Those would be able to be moved in, and you'll be able to secure the permissions within the administrative side. You have the ability also to move them to document sets. And then we have the ability here to actually download the results as an XLS so that you can share those results in a grid format. If you want to do just a quick review outside of the system or to share with whomever is asking questions about the set of data that you're looking at. We have the ability to download documents as a PDF as well. This is the ability either to do it individual PDFs or a single combined. So if you want to do a printout of a bunch of stuff, you have the ability, instead of going in and creating an export, to go in and actually do a printout. You can render the annotations and redactions and also stamp the IDs at the same time. There's a lot more in the More menu, bulk updating of fields, but pretty much the functionality throughout here is really robust with all of the review capabilities. So I mentioned review pools. This is our batch review system. We have the ability within the administrative features to limit users to what they have access to. This is one thing that you can actually limit a user when they log into the case. The only thing they see is the batch review. So they're a batch reviewer. They go in, they drop down the list, pick their batch, they check it out, and you'll see that there's almost 60,000 documents available, and it's successfully checked out 200 documents. And then they would go through the same type of review screen. They would review it. You know, they'd go through a couple documents, and they'd shut it, and they'd be able to see where they left off in their review process. Once they're complete with their review, they've made their comments, they've done a review for prevalence, relevance, and issues, they'd be able to check this back in, and the documents would, if they successfully met the criteria, they would be removed from the pool, and then next time they check out documents, they'd get a new set available to them. Pairing up with this batch review, we have the ability to report on the pool summaries, and then within the relevance and issue coding, for instance, we have the ability to take a look at all the reviewers who are assigned to that pool and take a look and see how they're actually doing with their review. And then at the end of the day, you'll be able to see all the current batches that are checked out. So this gives you just a good visibility into, who's got what, who's working with it, and the ability to just have some ability to check on what they're doing and, question, hey, it looks like you're stalled. Is there something we need to do? Now we get into the admin side of things. So I'm going to roll through this fairly quickly. There's a lot of technical details within this that I won't drill into, but I will get to a lot of the functionality. So case settings is fairly well descriptive on its own. You have the ability to change the name, assign a case number, add a description, and add a category as well. As you add categories, they'll be added to the drop-down list here. You have the ability in our newest version to generate thumbnails for all images. This is available from the analyst side here. So if I go in under Analyze, choose a doc kind of image, and then look at the list, you'll be able to see here just a quick review that these are available. I will not go any further because I know that there are some really compromising images within this data set. And they didn't quite clean it up very well when it came to that. So that's a new feature that we've brought into this, just so you have a quick view of your pictures. Again, that helps cull in the beginning. You get all the basic Microsoft GIFs and JPEGs and bitmaps and dump those out is irrelevant. Users, roles, and groups. This is where you add users. You can define their role within the case. You can create roles and you can create groups here. You have the ability from here to take a look and see what they have access to already within this case. So at a site level, you have the ability to run this as well, and it will tell you across all the cases what permission sets they have. You have the ability to define the default settings for how you load documents into the case, and then the default date format for importer. Loader settings, I'll just quickly go over a couple highlighted things. Duplicates, you can, at the time of ingestion, define whether you want to keep duplicates or keep one per custodian or keep one per the case. And that ability is to be templated in the admin side, and you have the ability to change that in the loader itself at the time that you're actually defining the settings. In addition, you have the ability to add items directly to the OCR queue if you know that they're there. So obviously TIFFs will be added. If you know that you have a bunch of JPEGs that have, or PNGs that have text in them that need to be extracted, you can go ahead and automatically just throw those into the OCR queue, so that once the ingestion is complete and you kick off that OCR process, those will be included in there. Really, that's the high level. A lot of this is very technical in what is added, what isn't, what's put directly into QA. The big thing to take away from this is that this is the template for every time you launch that application for this case. Same thing for the importer settings. If you know that all of your productions that you'll be importing are using a certain date format, you can go ahead and define that date here. If it's variable, most people leave this alone, and every time when they're bringing a production in, they actually have to go and look at the date format, because there really is no standard when it comes to disclosures. You have the ability to define how the MD5 is calculated at the time things come in. We have a general guidance that we use that is a default, but you have the ability to go outside that default if you have to in order to calculate these. So just quick highlight of that. Data sets, this is where you can see the various different data sets that you have brought into the case and how you brought them in, either via importer or via loader. Again, importer is for structured load files, productions that have already been given to you from another system, and loader comes from just loose natives, PSTs, the forensic images, zip files compressed, or just literally loose native files. Display settings, this is where you have the ability to define which tabs are available in that markup, in that review grid, what we call the document viewer. Also, you have the ability to define here a lot of settings that I mentioned about TIFF on the fly, PDF on the fly, enable the downloading of native documents or PDFs and printing, etc. So there's a lot of this that you can identify. You can also change the case time. The case time when documents are brought in is automatically calculated to UTC. That's based off of the properties of the file. So if you know that your reviewers are in another time zone that isn't UTC, you can go ahead and adjust that case time zone so that it shows for them in their time zone. What happens then is everything is converted as they view it on the front end, but in the back end in the database, it continues to remain as UTC. For the fields, you have the ability to define custom fields here, and this is where you would go in and add fields to your review grid, change the ability for people to modify, just again, a lot of very granular settings. These fields are what would then become available in the layouts. The layouts, again, are your coding panels. So for instance, this one has these fields. The issues is an actual set of tags. So you have the ability to choose a set of tags out of all these tags and make them available within that coding panel. Again, very customizable, and you'll see here that the permissions are defined here at the top. Aliases. This is where I was discussing how the alias feature works. We currently have in our what we call our AI lab, which is a bunch of PhD level machine learning experts putting together utilities. We have a tool that will probably be released here in the next couple months that will automatically suggest aliases based off of the data that is within and has been scanned by the tool. So it'll scan it, it'll automatically kind of generate the alias with all of the associated email addresses, people, organizations, and then show that to the user. At this point, we don't have that in the utility, so it's a manual feature that you have to go ahead and configure, but we are working to automate that process so that you have the ability to create aliases without having to do the level of work that you have to do right now. Because as you see, there are over 52,000 people and organizations within this data set. Creating aliases can get to be a bit tedious at that level. But the ability to create an alias just cuts down on your time to create all of the search functions around those people and those email addresses. As you see here, we've identified Albert Myers has all of these people and organizations surrounding his name. So for instance, Bill Rapp is the same way, just a whole bunch of different variances of emails and names that were used. Each of those has a separate line item in the people and organization. You're able to combine those into aliases, which helps you to search and helps you to define really what you're looking for and pull those sets very easily. Folders, I touched on this really quickly, the ability to segregate documents out and define permission sets. Very, very granular. This is a great way of, again, segregating out documents so that people who should not be seeing all of the documents are limited in their view. Exports, I'm not sure how interested you are in this. I'll just quickly state that we have a lot of different formats that we can get the exports out in. We have the ability to templatize those, and also so that you have the ability to quick recall, use a template, change your format of where you're targeting with a tag or a document set or even a data set, and then just run that. So we have the ability just to do that very quickly. But as you see here, we have a number of different formats they can come out in. You can pull it out based off of a tag, a data set, or a document set. You have the ability to very explicitly define which fields you want to come out and also which tags you want to come out. And then you have the ability to define what you want to come out, native text, PDF, TIFFs, your redaction settings. This is a very robust engine. I could go into this for a long time, but I will save you that.
Okay.
And if you're interested in more information about how we do our exports and all the options that are available, I'm happy to go into that further with you at another time, or provide some documentation around that. But this is a very robust engine. They spent a lot of time in this trying to make it so that it's easy to use and that there's a quick recall on that with the templates. Something that people ask about a lot is the ability for an audit trail. So everything within the case is logged because at a SQL level, a transaction occurs every time. So you'll see that I checked in a batch, I displayed a chart, I displayed a list of documents, I checked out a pool. You're able to see which documents were included in that pool. There's very granular audit logs here. The ability to limit by user, by the object type and the event type. So there's a lot of accountability and a lot of trail for audit here that you can reference, and this helps you when you have to testify as to certifying the evidence itself. Yes, I looked through this. Yes, I can prove this. So from a functional standpoint, that is our front end. I've also described the process that we bring data in either through loader or importer, and then we also have another application that we use to fix problems that's called QA Manager. So you have the ability to go in and pull all the password protected documents. And if you've been provided that password, you can apply that password and have the password removed so that it goes into the system and has all the properties brought in. So that's at a very high level, the functionality of EDT. Is there anything you'd like me to dig into a little bit more as we have about 15 minutes left?
Not in this section, that's for sure. So
Okay.
yeah, probably in the first two steps in the analyze and the review, that's my focus, let's say. And I saw this, let's call it hypergraph, like who is talking to whom. And the question that I have is, if there is some other visual graphs that can be created in this point, in this analyze step, like you show me,
Sure.
yeah, you show me that communication graphs, like how many, the traffic between people in organization, in emails, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Which
So
looks,
we have the communication.
yeah, please.
Yep. So we have the communication chart. You have the ability to define this a little bit further as well. I mean, you can limit it to 25 top communicators or all of them. You have the ability, from to CC, BCC. We also have the ability for key terms. I
Yeah,
did
that's
not
the
go into this.
question. Yes, yes.
So this is more of a concept wheel. You have the ability to define which key terms are listed here as well. So you can see, Enron is not listed. It's, 226,000 documents with that term in it. If you have all of these terms, if you have a list of terms that you'd like to view within this concept wheel, you have the ability to bulk update those and include them, and that will automatically add them to here.
Yeah,
so
Enron could be one topic that's only Enron.
Yeah, so you could include Enron in this wheel if you wanted to. And at this point, it's already been saved. So we should be able to see here. Let's go ahead and apply this filter again. It will probably overwhelm the rest of the terms. But let's take a look. Yeah, so here's Enron. And within Enron, we'll dig in a little deeper here. You'll see that there will be a number of sub-terms that come up underneath that. So that's going to be RLY, Termin, Headcount, ISS, Concur, Peak, etc. But down here in the bottom are the 15,000 documents with the key term in it. And you can actually, at this point, drill in and actually view those. You can tag them. Again, just the ability to go ahead and move that into your review platform at this point. So this is a nice way of seeing the data itself. So you've seen the kind chart. There's also a custodian chart here. This just gives you an idea of what is in the data set, what percentage is there. It's not much beyond that. You have the ability down here to view a chart of the numbers of files, the amount of totals, etc., and then the ability to download it in an Excel format. So it's another good visual of what's in your case. You have the ability to see the language breakout as well. The percentages of the data sets as they came in. So a lot of people do multiple different data sets for loading their documents in. They like to know, what's the breakout? For instance, I loaded in a data set of all of our people of interest, POIs, but really they only make up 5% of the documents that are in the case. Why is that? Did we miss something? In the load settings, did that not come through correctly? Or in the actual ESI capture, did that not get done correctly? So this is a good ability to take a look and see what you've got here. Again, the size, this really tells you more about the size of the documents. So 94% of the documents in this set are between 1 kilobyte and 5 kilobyte. So fairly small. Really, and then you have duplicate chart as well. Of course, I'm currently looking at all of the unique documents. So you have, in this set, there's only about 3% that are duplicates. Because when we did the loading of this, the majority of our data sets were brought in on a case-wide deduplication. We just brought in a few of them so that we could have some duplicates available. So at this point, that's pretty much a good deep dive into the charts themselves. This is the date chart. Obviously for Enron, everything is associated around the year 2000, 2002. So the chart looks a wee bit skewed, only because there are some documents that were that received some numbers that were way out in the year 9000 something or other, which obviously is an invalid file of some sort, but it still came through and it still was cataloged that way. So at this point, I mean, that's really all of our documents themselves, our charts for these data sets. And then of course we have the full listing view here as well that you can view. Christoph, is there anything you want to cover off before we finish off today?
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. Adrian, anything that we should show you that we haven't showed you yet? Any questions there?
No, in this moment, I think it's enough. I mean, it's like a general overview, and it was really very helpful for me and also useful.
Sure.
So in this moment, for me, it's enough information to talk with my colleagues about.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, it's good enough.
You know what? I'm gonna pause the recording here.
Okay.
So yeah, make sure.